Hi everyone, just wanted to do an update. It's been a little while since the last one, just to give you an idea of 2021 for me these last couple months. Typically this time of year, I've had my numbers crash right after Christmas into the new year. Typically it's January, February. It's been the case the last 3 years. This year it's been no different. My numbers have started to come down immediately once we got into the new year. My last test in December 2019, I had 178, so normal range for me. Typically it's 170 to 210, somewhere in there in terms of my platelet count for ITP. My next test in January was essentially right at January 6th, and my numbers are at 108, so quite a dramatic drop. They're still in an okay range, but they've become below that healthy range of 150. They're below that. And so I right away started taking action with natural supplements. As I've said in previous videos, if you want to check on my YouTube channel, I drink electrolytes from Pedialyte, from Abbott Labs. I find that at pharmacy, at Safeway, a couple different places. And I take that along with monolaurin, another supplement that I take that seems to help here in the last year or so that I've been taking that. I take that daily with every meal, so it's 3 times a day. And then I was also taking a multi-mineral, EMP. I would take that 2 in the morning and then 2 at lunch. As well as another important factor for me is probiotic. I've been taking probiotic now for quite a while. I have it every morning. I take the 100 billion probiotic from Renew Life. You'll also see all the things that I've been talking about in previous videos if you want to take a look in my YouTube channel. So I started on that, and my numbers also started to come up at that point. They're at 109 again on Wednesday, January 6th. I had a couple blood tests at that point, and next thing you know, as of January 22nd, I'm back up at 182. So I'm in my normal range again. During that time as well, I had some stress at work. I had been given a new position, and the new position also required me to take care of my old position. And so for stress, it was too much. And so essentially I stepped back from the new opportunity at work and just said I'm going to take care of my old position, as they're aware that I have ITP, and they were okay with that. So I went back to my old role again, along with taking, of course, the natural supplements that I mentioned. I also was doing meditation. I typically do meditation for about 20 minutes. Just close my eyes. I put on my phone 20 minutes, and I do breathing exercises where I'm breathing in for 4 seconds, holding air for 7 seconds, and then exhaling for 8 seconds. And then I say a word, and in my case it's peace, peace. And then I just essentially redo that element of meditation for the 20 minutes. Just repeat, repeat, repeat. I find it slows me down. I find that I'm more tranquil after the 20 minutes, and I find that when I do that too, my numbers I think are positive. So I do it, and I feel better. So that's also something too that I did during that time. So back at 182, that was great news. I was really happy about that. Obviously in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, okay, this year I don't have to worry about taking steroids to get my platelets up. I can do it naturally, because 2020 was definitely a breakthrough year for me in that regard, where just natural supplements helped me to bring up my platelet count, and I didn't have to do any steroids, which for me was dexamethasone. So I haven't done any of that since last July, which is great. Looking to do now with some of these natural supplements and some of the things I've been learning that have been helped to manage my platelet count. Hopefully that's a thing of the past. But I wanted to share with everyone the things that have been working for me. so that of course you can do it naturally and avoid potentially steroids, hospital visits. You can do it on your own. I think what works is being able to get my blood tests regularly. Usually it's weekly or every 2 weeks, so that I know where I'm at. Sometimes they're even, when things are going where platelets are quite low. I'm fortunate enough here in Vancouver, Canada, where I can go and I can get blood tests sometimes twice a week if I need it. Obviously, my arms aren't very thankful that I do that, because they feel like Swiss cheese and that hurts, but nonetheless, I can do it regular and I can monitor where my numbers are at. So getting back to my schedule here with my platelet count. So we were back at 182 on January 22nd, which was great news. Remember last year for the Super Bowl, my numbers, they had crashed, unfortunately. That was a bummer. But nonetheless, here we are a year later, and naturally my numbers are coming up and I'm managing it, which is great. So later in February, my numbers started slipping a little bit again. They started coming down around the end of February. My test, for example, on February the 27th was 145. So typically I find like once they start coming below 160, they're kind of on the decline. So at that point it's like, okay, let's start to remedy some of this. And again, it's a little bit of electrolytes. It's my probiotic in the morning. It's monolaurin. I find like those three really help. I find those three in this whole formula of like, oh, my numbers are up again. They seem to really help. So those ones I highly recommend. So I'm just looking at my journal. And by the way, I do recommend highly also journaling. I'll show you here. I have my journal, and it's a daily. And I recommend for anyone with low platelets or ITP to journal daily. I know it can be tedious and I'm not a big fan, but it's been really helpful. And by putting down every day what you're eating with each meal, you get a bit of an idea of like, okay, this is what I'm eating, this is what's helping. If you're fasting, if you're doing exercise, also writing down the supplements you take, I think is also very important. I also do that so that I know, oh look, okay, my platelets, it looks like they rose here around this time, and I was taking certain supplements. If you do any kind of significant things too, I just write a little note, kind of like off of work. I also noted the weather a little bit. Is it sunny? Is it cloudy? Specifically sunny days, I just write down sunny. With that connection with vitamin D, and did you spend time outside? If you spend time outside, it might be a factor that helped in, exercise, getting vitamin D, just kind of your overall well-being. So I just make a note of it, because I think later, once you have kind of this aggregate of information and data, you can go back and you can see, you might see a little picture there. So that's what I've been doing. So I highly recommend journaling if you have ITP or if your platelets are low. That way you can take a look at patterns and you can go back and see like, oh, this worked. Like I especially found that with when my platelets were crashing, and then all of a sudden, especially in this last year, 2020 and now 2021, my numbers coming back up. I go back and I take a look at, oh, okay, I took this or I didn't take that. So it's like I can see that's significant, or I can see this doesn't seem to be that significant even though I thought so. Like some of these updates based on that. So recommend journaling. So getting back here, we're in March now. I'm just looking at my calendar. With March, my numbers started to come down, as I mentioned, at the end of February. Yeah, on the 27th, or 145. So I started again to react to that, and on the 6th of January, my numbers were back up at 167. And then I had a blood test yesterday, hence why I'm doing the video here. My numbers are at 175. So they're in a healthy range again, which is great. It was done naturally. And I just wanted to give a little bit of an update in terms of some of the things that have been working for me. This last time when they're at 145 to 175, I didn't take any of the EMP, the multi-mineral, which has helped in the past and was very helpful. So I did some regular things like I did in the past with drinking a liter of electrolytes. I took probiotic in the morning, Renew Life, 100 billion, and then also monolaurin with my meals. And that seemed to help, along with a couple other things, which I wanted to include with this video. I wrote a list here of them. I did some fasting, and that seems to be helping, and has been something else that I wanted to include with my updates, where I'm having my breakfast and I'm having my lunch, and then I'm fasting in the evening, and I do that for a stretch. I've done that for a week. In between blood tests, just to see how it helps, and my numbers have been coming up in this last stretch here for spring 2021. And what I do is breakfast and lunch, I eat everything and anything I want. I've been avoiding things that are like refined sugar, not so much breads, a little bit lower carb, but not completely no carb. I'm just doing, rather than simple carbs, I'm doing complex carbs. But the fasting has been helping, and going from 3 meals to 2 meals, I find that I lose a little bit of like belly weight, and so the fasting has been helpful, not only for getting my numbers up, but I feel better too. Obviously, there's a little bit of like a little hunger that you overcome in the first day or two, but after that you're okay, because you make sure you have a strong breakfast and a really strong lunch if you can. And then at night, you have you hydrate, and that's it. And you'll see, from my perspective, I've seen that helped. So I fasted, which was interesting. I don't know if I've mentioned that in my previous videos, but that's been helpful. And I've seen the results where my numbers have come up. Is it a factor? I think so, potentially. The other thing that I've been doing is I've been eating garlic cloves. I've been eating a lot more garlic. Recently, I've also been doing more sunbathing or sun tanning on my patio. Fortunately, I'm in Vancouver. It's a lot of gray and raining a lot, but the sun has been coming out here in March a little bit, and so working from home at the moment, I've been able to just go into the patio around 2:30 or 3 o'clock and take some sun in until the sun goes down. So it's about a good sometimes an hour, 2 hours, and I get some vitamin D in. I feel a lot better. Could be a factor as well. I know I miss the sun. I love the sun. I'm definitely more heat than a cold person, and so I've been doing a lot more of that in these last couple weeks, or when my numbers were down. That helped. I took some days off of work as well. If you're able to, I find taking some time off, and just, you don't, like, obviously we need to work, and so essentially paying a bill is very important. Taking time away where you take extended times, that adds to stress. So I've been working through this whole time, but I've been fortunate enough where I bookend some weekends. I take a Friday off, or I take a Monday off, and I add 3 days. And I find I sleep in, I eat, I relax, I meditate, go shopping and get the different things that I need. And that helps a lot. So if you can, I would recommend that as well. I think that's been a part of my success potentially. I've also been walking quite a bit and doing quite a bit of exercise. I believe that helps to de-stress. I think that's important. This next one I think is important and significant. And so what I've been doing recently, I had read an article about vitamin K1. As you already may be aware, vitamin K helps with blood clotting and with blood factors. And so being deficient in that can potentially impact clotting and blood in your body. And so I read an interesting article on how a sprig of parsley, so basically like a couple leaves of parsley And Swiss chard, 1 leaf of Swiss chard is enough K1 for the entire day. So I've been eating parsley in the morning with breakfast, and I've been having a leaf of Swiss chard at lunch regularly and consistently, especially during these times when my numbers came down. And I believe that's also been very helpful. So again, eating parsley, just a sprig, just like, one leaf or several leaves off a branch daily in the morning, and then Swiss chard, 1 big leaf. I find I've been eating those daily, regularly, more so, and my numbers have been coming up, and potentially I see that being a factor. We want to make sure that we have enough K1 so that we can clot. Apparently we don't need very much K1 at all daily. So that's why just a little bit of parsley and a little bit Swiss chard. You could just do parsley and apparently that's enough. But I also add Swiss chard, and I think those two seem to help. So I wanted to mention that as well. I've been also starting with a shake in the morning, and the shake is by a company called Vega Sport. It has different powders from cruciferous vegetables in it, as well as a little bit of beets, and it's got a berry flavor, strawberry, and it's called Vega Sport. And I've been taking that every morning after my breakfast. It comes in a powder form, and you put it in some water, and you have a glass. And I find I feel good, and potentially I think another way to make sure I'm getting a little bit more vegetables in, especially those green vegetables. It has all kinds of great stuff in it. It has pea protein, broccoli, spinach powder, beets powder, which is really good, and a couple other like greens in it. Really nice. So that, I think, is another factor I wanted to mention in this update that's been very helpful. Now, I'd also been looking up quite a bit recently about electrolytes. It's fascinating to me that electrolytes was such a factor for me last year in 2020 in helping my numbers come up. And it is something that wasn't mentioned to me by doctors or even people I knew. It was something that I read, and I had read about it online, and also came across it by accident. You can see one of my videos on electrolytes earlier in my YouTube channel if you want to take a look there, which will talk about it more in depth. But I took a little bit more look at the electrolytes in the Pedialyte drink that I take that I find has been very helpful to me. And I've been focusing on potassium and chloride more so recently. Chloride you can get from tomatoes and rye bread, and I've been eating a lot more of those recently. And so, you ask yourself, okay, is my chloride levels low historically? And when I have electrolytes, that tops me up, and that's why potentially my system seems to work again. So I've isolated that, and I've been eating more tomatoes and rye bread. Interesting side note is that a couple weeks ago, as my numbers were down, I had these cravings for salsa, for tomato salsa that you have with corn chips. And so for several days I went out and I bought an organic, fresh tomato salsa that had garlic in it and lime, lemon, onions, parsley, peppers, but it was mostly tomato based, and it was all healthy, good, no added sugars or anything like that, local brand. And I had that for several days and I couldn't get enough of it. And so the question there is, okay, why? And then I read up a little bit on chloride and found out tomatoes is one of the vegetables that has the most chloride in it. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe that's the case. Maybe that's why. It's interesting to listen to your body, because your body will have cravings, and the cravings are for a reason. Your body is basically telling you, hey, I need this. For some reason, I have this craving for certain foods or liquids. Why? Your body's telling you something. Your body's going, hey, Your body's so smart. It's telling you, I need more of this. Give it to me. That's why the appetite all of a sudden for certain things are like, wow, I don't know why. This is why. Your body's talking to you. So listen. It's important to listen and to give it what it needs. Now with potassium, I've been eating more potassium-rich items daily because apparently you need a lot of potassium. So I've been eating more avocados, apparently very high in potassium. I've been eating more potatoes, also high in potassium. It's a starch, so you're going to get mixed reviews about eating more potatoes for potassium because the carbohydrates turn into sugar. But nonetheless, I've been eating them. I like potatoes. I'll have a little bit. I've also been having more coconut water. Coconut water also has higher amounts of potassium. With that, I would also say you want to have coconut water that doesn't have added sugar, that it's just coconut water. And also you want to take a look at the sugars to make sure they're not too high. I found some brands that are lower in sugar where it's like 7 grams, 8 grams per like 500 milliliters or so. They're going to have natural sugars, but you don't want added sugars. So anyways, that's also something I've been adding more so into my diet with the last couple months with my numbers coming up naturally. So potentially a positive factor there. So the last thing I wanted to mention, along with this positive news, that naturally I've been able to increase my platelet count again here in the spring, which is typically like always numbers come down kind of like on schedule, whether it's we don't have enough sun around that time, or you're eating at Christmas time a lot of foods that are filled with sugar and preservatives and things like that, and it's not good for you, and they catch up to you potentially in the new year in January, February, for me in that case anyways. For whatever reason that is, that seems to be something that happens all the time every year. But this year I was able to bring up my numbers naturally, which is great. 2020 was an incredible year for me to learn naturally how to bring them up with supplements, with electrolytes, with food, with meditation, which you can also, as I mentioned, see in some of my previous videos on my YouTube channel. Now, the latest update I'm going to mention here is now in April, I'm going to be seeing a naturopath around black mold. Some of the research I've been doing more recently seems potentially to maybe indicate that I might have mold intoxication. Did I say that right? A toxicity of mold, essentially, black mold specifically. And from some of the research that I'm essentially reading about, black mold will basically live in your body and essentially start to spread, and you have kind of like a secondary being inside you that's taking nutrients. You're eating well, and you're like, why am I not healing? This is like persistent. What's up with this ITP? There's no known reason as to why. And black mold has been known to be a particular figure in some of these unknown diseases. And it's kind of like a antagonist that can bring up all kinds of symptoms in your body, and you're not aware of it. And I'm going to be testing this with a naturopath in April. I had an experience in 2015, just before this all started, where I cleaned a shower that was full of black mold. And there's a possibility that it got inside me, and that it's potentially thriving inside me. And it's very hard to eliminate, apparently, but it can be done. And so this is going to be kind of my new aim here for end of spring and summer, is to verify if that's potentially something that I have and eliminating that. So I also wanted to update those that have been watching the channel that have ITP, that have low platelets, that potentially it could be mold. It could be black mold that somehow you've been exposed to, and that is playing a factor in your low platelets, in your ITP, or in potentially other similar related things related to having low blood counts. So I will update this definitely here once I go through that and I have some more information. If it is the case that I get diagnosed with that, I will keep you updated. I hope that you continue well. Hope platelets stay strong, and all the best, okay? Take care. Bye-bye.